GM, everybody. How the heck are you doing today? On Friday, April 17th, the final daily digital download for the week. Oh my gosh. We are once again dual streaming on YouTube and X. Thank you to Restream. I really appreciate that. Let me also just add in the old TL real quick. I don't know why I keep saying test. Things we'll need to figure out in the future. Pero no hay problema. Estoy bien. Todo tranqui. Anyways, what is going on here? It says we're live, and I'm just gonna go with it. Sorry for all of the problems that are popping up right now, but hey, this is the way that it goes. Welcome to technology. Welcome to Friday. We're almost there, folks. It's almost the end of the weekend. This week was kind of quiet. If you want to see what happened in previous weeks, please head over to the smarteconomist.beehiiv.com to catch all of the weekly newsletters that we've been doing since we've been doing the daily digital download. We've had some fantastic newsletters, and I'm really, really excited for where these are going. Enter your email here. I would love for you guys to subscribe. Anyways, all that said, we are going to move on to this week's news. I think this week might be a quick week. The Clarity Act stablecoin language in the market structure bill has, of course, put things on pause. There was whisperings of a draft of the forthcoming Clarity Act to come through this week. However, we are not going to be seeing a draft today. We will have to wait until next week, because más o menos, more or less, they're still drafting it. The anticipated release of the Clarity Act's latest text on the stablecoin yield will be pushed back to next week, and they say beyond. I hope not. Senator Tom Tillis, a Republican from North Carolina, said the draft will likely not be released this week, saying that he wants to stating he wants clarity on the timing of the upcoming Banking Committee markup before publishing the text to the public. The Banking Committee is largely where we want to see the most news for the Stablecoin Act, the Clarity Act, be pushed forward. Largely, the process will be Banking Committee, then Senate Ag Committee, then vote for Senate approval, and then the bill is put on President Trump's desk. That being said, the Banking Committee it's the biggest sticking point. It's the largest hurdle. More or less, the Senate Ag Committee is composed of mostly Republicans. And in theory, the bill will be able to move quickly through that committee. And the Senate Banking Committee has long been the committee of friction for the market structure bill, Clarity Act. This year, there's a better composition of left and right, Democrats and Republicans. And also, this is where the sticking point has been for most of the wording this year. So when Clarity is able to make it through Senate Banking Committee, we're likely on the track to seeing this bill get voted on. And we need it to be voted on right now during this congressional body, because midterms are coming up in November. And if the Democrats do take over the House, it will be very difficult for anything crypto to be pushed forward, largely because crypto is viewed as a Republican talking point. Even though this technology benefits everybody and it should not be bipartisan, when Trump planted his flag in the ground in 2024 for being a pro-crypto president, this is the situation we found ourselves in. So, the legislative team continues to meet with the bank trade associations and crypto companies. This has been the largest fight over wording in the Clarity Act, is what will happen with stablecoin yield. I don't know. We'll find out when we get the draft text. But whisperings have been saying that the bank lobby and the crypto lobby have been getting to a place where they can compromise. The draft currently reflects prior language that would ban rewards on idle stablecoin holdings and accounts while allowing yield on activity like transactions. I don't know what the heck that looks like. We'll find out when this comes out, when wording is more definitive, when I can dig in further. But until then, hurry up and wait. In other government news, so exciting for all of my international listeners, the CFTC chair was grilled by lawmakers recently. Chair Selig, Michael Selig, faced questions about hyperliquid, prediction markets, and whether his agency has enough staff to take on new regulatory areas. CFTC Chairman Selig faced heat on how he plans to oversee prediction markets. During a House Ag Committee hearing, which is jurisdiction over the CFTC, lawmakers pressed Selig on prediction markets, which have recently been scrutinized after contracts were created that allow people to bet on events such as predicting the death of Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. One trade actually made $500,000 on betting on this. Look, this was the problem with prediction markets as long as I've been in the crypto space, going back to 2017. Augur was one of the first kind of leading candidates to be a prediction market. They become death markets at a large enough bet. If there's enough money on the table and a single individual's life is put on the line, what's to say that somebody won't hire an assassin, or an assassin won't go and bet for or against somebody's life themselves and claim the rewards? And so this is the biggest scrutiny that Polymarket, Kalshi, and other prediction markets are facing right now. And yeah, also they've been, since they're largely in this like gray area, regulated, not regulated, still seeing how the dust settles. There's also insider trading information that the Trump regime is guilty of. A lot of insiders are making bets on events and making lots of money off of it. What do you expect from an administration who's being headed by somebody who had questionable business morals to begin with? I'm not making excuses. I'm just stating, like, that's not shocking to me. I don't like it. I don't want elected officials making money off of insider information. But this doesn't just extend to prediction markets. It also extends to equities. Look at like Nancy Pelosi or other members of Congress. Why are they just making insane amounts of returns on their equities investments? It's because they have insider information and they can act on it. All that being said, I want all of this to be fair for everybody. So I'm not just like writing off prediction markets. I'm also acknowledging that death markets have been a long-standing concern for anybody who's been building in blockchain and crypto for as long as I can remember, all the way back to 2017. I cannot believe I've been in this space for 9 years. That just makes me feel old. Anyways. So yeah, CFTC Chair Selig was grilled. Quote, Jim Costa, a Democrat from California. This is nuts. Do you think this is what was intended? look, of course Selig isn't going to say, yeah, this was what was intended. Way to go, prediction markets. This has long been a concern. So when a lawmaker has a soundbite like that, I don't view it in good faith. That being said, regardless of D or R, we don't want to see life prediction markets based off somebody's life. And I think where the cutoff should be is betting on military intervention or somebody's life. Those should not be allowed on prediction markets at a bare minimum. Then we should go through the legislative processes, either internally as an industry, more broadly as a crypto industry, or prediction markets industry, on what should the internal guidelines for morals and ethics be on what markets are allowed. And if that isn't settled, then the government has to come in, which is what governments should do. When industries aren't self-regulating and people are being harmed, that's when government should enter. Anyways, in March, the CFTC released an advance notice of proposed rulemaking on how exchanges should approach listing prediction market contracts. CFTC Chair Selig asserted that the agency has exclusive jurisdiction despite pushback from states that say platforms are violating local gambling and gaming laws, particularly related to sports-related bets. This has been the judicial battle that Kalshi and Polymarket have been fighting, particularly in 2026, against states, as states don't want these prediction markets operating within their states because they don't want gambling. And look, the CFTC is pushing back and is fighting, stating that this is a national guideline, that the CFTC should have jurisdiction over prediction markets, and that they're fighting the states who are trying to get these applications banned from their states. Why are they doing this? It's not because certain states hate free markets or anything. The beauty of America is that we are a free market economy, and we have states that can set their laws, oftentimes, that have more of an impact and effect than a federal law might have. And as such, you see states kind of leaning to the left or to the right, which I think is good. If you find yourself to be more right-leaning, then go move to a state, vote with your feet, and go to Texas or Arizona or Florida. If those are the ideals that you align with politically, if you feel like you're more left represented, California, Massachusetts, New York, go relocate to those states. These states that are suing or asking these prediction markets to leave are states like Utah, who don't want gambling. They've banned Sportsbook. They've banned other gambling websites from being able to operate in Utah because the state has conservative ideals. The people who live in Utah more or less align ideologically with conservatism. They don't want to gamble. The state doesn't want gambling apps to be there. And look, if you don't like it, move. Go to a state where your freedom to act isn't being impeded on. So I understand why some states want these types of applications out. They don't want these types of services in their state. Look, it's the beauty and the gift of free choice. You get to allocate, you get to spend your time where you want to. Additionally, decentralized perpetual futures exchange Hyperliquid, which recently came into the spotlight as non-crypto traders turned to 24/7 markets to gain exposure to oil investments. I spoke about this yesterday. Also raised eyebrows during the CFTC hearing. Republican Representative Austin Scott asked CFTC Chair Selig about those oil contracts and how the CFTC can regulate them given that they are offshore and so are not under the agency's jurisdiction. Selig said he's monitoring those markets, adding that the goal is to onshore those markets to make them subject to U.S. regulations. All I have to say is the reason why Hyperliquid is having its moment is because 7 of the 10 most voluminous markets on Hyperliquid are non-crypto markets because people want to be able to trade tokenized real-world assets, commodities, what have you, 24/7. So that's a bigger issue for CFTC to tackle. And then another portion of the hearing was, does the CFTC have enough people to regulate its current markets, its future crypto markets, its future prediction markets? And Selig said that A, they might need a little bit more funding, but B, that they're working exceptionally well with the staff that they have and that they're deploying AI tooling. Speaking of derivatives, Payward, the parent company of crypto exchange Kraken, is acquiring Bitnomial for up to $550 million in cash and stock, which will give Kraken a fully CFTC licensed foothold in the U.S. derivatives market. While the deal is still subject to the CFTC, Bitnomial, as a Chicago-based crypto-native exchange that holds 3 CFTC-issued licenses that are needed to run a full-stack domestic digital asset derivatives business, includes a designated contract market, a derivatives clearing organization, and a futures commission merchant. Why does this matter? Well, Kraken wants to get into more than just crypto spot. They want to get into providing derivatives of non-crypto assets. The licensing behind the deal is why this is worth so much. Buying the firm provides Kraken with regulated infrastructure that took more than a decade to assemble. This is an M&A. This is what happens when you have funds and you want to enter into a new market. You acquire a business that has already built that up from the ground. Arjun Sethi, the co-CEO of Payward and Kraken, said the company plans to use that foundation to launch U.S. products, including spot margin, perps, and options under CFTC oversight. Payward ties the acquisition to broader business-to-business push. Through Payward services, the firm said banks, brokerages, fintechs, and payments providers will be able to plug into regulated U.S. derivatives products through a single integration alongside crypto trading, tokenized equities, staking, and on and off ramps. This is just a crypto-native company integrating itself into TradFi, and we're starting to see the mixture, the combination of crypto rails and TradFi rails. It's the institutionalization story I've been talking about all year, folks. Let's get out of institutionalization for a moment and just acknowledge that the EF is losing a good one. Josh Stark is stepping down from the EF, Ethereum Foundation. He was an influential part of the Ethereum Foundation. After 5 years, he's stepping down, according to an announcement he released yesterday. Josh joined the EF in 2019 to work with Special Projects team and was later promoted to a leadership role where he worked alongside EF president, then Ethereum Foundation president, Aya Miyaguchi, and Ethereum founder, Vitalik Buterin. The EF is currently in flux. I'm not going to say it's good or bad. It's just changing, and has been changing, actually, basically since 2025, January 1, 2025. And in addition to the shakeup of the organization's leadership last year, the Ethereum Foundation has redoubled its focus on scaling the Ethereum mainnet. You can just build on L1. And supporting core cypherpunk values, including censorship resistance, open source, privacy, and security, or CROPS. Tomasz Stanchek recently just stepped down as co-executive director of the EF last month. as well as others, such as Trent Van Epps, who announced that he had left the EF, where he worked on protocol development, as well as funding and grants efforts. He is working full-time at Protocol Guild. Stark was best known for his communications role and was among the better-known public faces of the organization. He also played a stewardship role for major efforts, including the merge, which was Ethereum's migration from proof of work to proof of stake, and the Denkun, Fusaka, and Pectra upgrades. Stark also founded ETH Global, a leading organizer of Ethereum-focused hackathons, and L4, an early-stage venture studio. Before his role at EF, he served as head of operations and legal at Ledger Labs. Josh has not announced where he's going next. It sounds like he's going to take some time off to breathe and figure out what to do next. Congrats to Josh on your next ventures, and thank you for your service at the EF. AI agents. Yes. Though I've had a hell of a week with my agent setup, thank you, Claude, for suggesting that I delete my entire home directory. It's been very fun rebuilding what I needed to from scratch. That being said, Mastercard is collaborating with Lobster Cash to integrate credit card payments. Mastercard and Lobster Cash are going to work together so consumers can be able to freely and safely authorize AI agents to make purchases using their existing payment cards. The company said in a statement, quote, Mastercard cardholders using OpenClaw will be able to authorize AI agents to make purchases on their behalf, with every transaction governed by issuer controls authenticated through Mastercard's network and cryptographically linked to the user's explicit intent. As AI systems are starting to become used more than for chat, payment companies are starting to invest more into tooling so folks can delegate payments to their AI agents. That will allow them to safely execute transactions. Last year, Visa introduced its Trusted Agent Protocol, a framework for AI-driven commerce. And Lobster Cash is an AI agent payment layer built by Crossmint, which is powered by Solana, Circle, Visa, Mastercard, Basis Theory, and Stitch. This is awesome. This is great. We still haven't seen the complete convergence of blockchain rails and AI use. There are tons of Claw users out there who are using agents for their own purposes. They're deploying AI for what they need it for, and they're not necessarily crypto natives. They're not using X402 for payments. They're not using any blockchain rail-oriented payment solutions, and they're not using stablecoins. They want to use their credit cards to be able to pay for things. As we've spoken about in the past, credit cards currently are not set up for AI agent payment solutions. Often, an AI agent typically needs to pay for something like an API call, which could cost something like 0.0006 cents. And for every call, every transaction on a credit card network, there's a minimum fee of something like 30 cents. So for every agent making an API call, not only are they paying 0.00006 cents, but they also have to pay 30 cents on top of that, which is just an exponential rise in how much they have to pay and owe. And it's not economically feasible for agents to use credit cards as it currently stands. That's why I wanted to cover this news, because the Mastercard Lobster Cash integration could solve that fee problem. Okay, folks, and on to our last piece of news for Friday, April 17th. Let's take a quick peek. 32 viewers. Here's to you guys. Here is to you guys. Thank you so much for tuning into the Daily Digital Download. Our final piece of news today is Tempo unveiling pragmatic privacy solutions called Zones. If you go onto CT right now, you will find a plethora of hot takes on Tempo about how it's not really a true blockchain. It's not really decentralized. And yeah, you're right. It's a blockchain that verifies and approves each of the validators on the network. And in a moment, when we look through the validators, you'll see why. My stance, and this is a hot take, if you don't like Tempo, don't use it. Not that difficult to grasp. If people are using Tempo, there's a reason they're using it. So Tempo is an L1 that was developed by Stripe and Paradigm, and it's rolling out these new privacy features called zones. It specifically targets business use cases like payroll, treasury management, and payment settlements, all of which need to have confidentiality and privacy that public blockchain networks don't offer. That's the crux of the story. Tempo saw a solution or a problem and they built a solution. Is Tempo more centralized than Ethereum? Yes. Is it more gated than Ethereum? Yes. Is that something that institutions might like? Yes. If you don't like it, you don't have to build on Tempo. If you're not, here, let's just take a look at, if you're not Alchemy, Dune Analytics, Anthropic, OpenAI, Shopify, maybe you don't care about the security features that Tempo offers. But those are the service providers that are collaborating with Tempo, so obviously there's a there. There's a need for this, and there's a market for it. Additionally, Tempo just announced validators the past couple weeks of Visa, Stripe, and Standard Chartered. Look, these are traditional financial entities that want to be able to participate in the Tempo network. So for all of you out there on CT who are denigrating and bashing Tempo, take a step back. Realize that the market sees a value in this and wants to use it. You don't have to align with the ethics or the morals of how Tempo was built. Nobody's asking you to. But the free market determines what people want to use and how they will use it. And this is an instance where the free market doesn't care about your ethics or your ideals or your dilemmas. People want to use Tempo. Each of the zones will be managed by a trusted entity like a financial institution or an infrastructure provider. And zone operators will not control the underlying assets. Tempo said in a statement, quote, "This is by design. A regulated institution running a zone may have additional compliance or reporting requirements. Enterprises can exercise tighter control by operating their zone. Users of the zone can only see their transactions and balances. Everyone else only sees cryptographic proofs of the zone's validity." So I think we have to take a step back and realize what Tempo's use case is. What were they going after in terms of market grab? Tempo was specifically designed for stablecoins and institutional use cases. As part of its mandate, Tempo team is also building towards agentic economies. So look, Shopify built Tempo. Tempo is meeting the needs of institutional players. They're also building for agentic solutions. These are all themes, trends, narratives of 2026 for where the puck is going, and Tempo is building for it. So I'll end today's space, today's daily digital download, today's live stream by stating, you don't have to like it, but there's a reason why it's being built. And with all that, folks, I have to eat lunch real quick, and then I have a Spanish lesson. So I'm going to call it here. Thank you so much for tuning into today's Daily Digital Download. If you haven't gone over to thesmarteconomist.beehiiv.com to subscribe to our weekly newsletter, then please do so. I look forward to releasing these every Friday or Saturday. It's probably about Saturdays that they'll be released, covering all the things that happened in the past week, using Signal as the source. So with all that said, folks, thank you so much for tuning into the Daily Digital Download for Friday, April 17th. Have a beautiful and glorious weekend. If you want to hear a little bit of ecosystem drama, then head over to the Smart Economy Podcast Twitter page where I hosted a space today about a battle going on for a $460 million treasury in the NEO ecosystem. And with all that said, have a fantastic day, have a fantastic weekend, and I'll catch